Welcome to the Learning to Chart section of our course. This first chart is a blank chart which I will explain in three sections: the top section, the central section and the lower section. This is the top section. You will be instructing your couples to fill these charts in, and of course it's important to put the month and the year. The date goes on the top line of the graph. We advise couples to circle the weekends. Next on the top line is the family planning intention, and we ask you to teach your clients to fill this section in together, each new chart, because that firms up and consolidates their intention together, which is important. It's not one person's responsibility or the other. Responsibility belongs to both of them. Then look at a thermometer. The choice is either mercury or digital. In the UK now it's impossible to get mercury thermometers, but in other countries they are still available. We advise in this country that you buy a digital thermometer with 2 decimal points with the temperature, as you see on this centigrade chart here. Some countries have a Fahrenheit chart, and I will supply Fahrenheit readings on another chart later. The next thing is time taken, the usual time taken. We do ask couples to be absolutely rigid, as far as possible, to take their temperature at the same time after 3 hours rest. This is the basal body temperature, and this is the temperature that will give the best reading. If they happen to take the temperature late, then we can adjust it, as we will tell you later. The route of taking the temperature, in the instructions of the thermometer that you will buy, it will give you oral instructions, and that will be sufficient. If a chart zigzags wildly, then we will be able to say take it rectally, but that is very rare. On the left-hand side of the chart, in the boxes, you can see the chart number. This is important. Whether there is a temperature rise in the last cycle or not. The shortest cycle and the longest cycle and the shortest cycle rule. These will become clear to you later. There is the centigrade scale, and there is the graph area, and underneath, on the last one of this page, is the day of the cycle. So hopefully you will feel clear now. This is the second section of the Natural Family Planning Teachers Training chart. As you can see, we have got the lower part of the graph for the temperatures and the day of the cycle. The next line is code of disturbances which may occur to affect the temperature: a new thermometer, alcohol, late, early, unwell, disturbed night, travelling, holiday, cystitis, thrush medicine and others. These enable the woman and her teacher to interpret unusual parts of the chart, things that have been affected by these happenings. Then below that is a summary of mucus. As you read, the mucus changes under the influence of estrogen. The first part of the menstrual cycle is dry in the entrance to the vagina. Then there may be mucus seen. It becomes wet and stretchy and clear and slippery. And this is the summary of the mucus, which is recorded in the section below this. There is again the day of the cycle. This repeat of the day of the cycle is to try and help you read the chart, a full chart, to keep your eye in line. So the next line is any period or spotting to be marked in that line. Day 1 of the spotting period is always day 1, and when the next menstrual period starts, that day is then transferred to the beginning of the next chart. You'll learn all these things when we do the full charting. Sensation at the vulva, put a D, M or W in the date of the line, and the appearance of the mucus, which you will learn later. Then the highest day of fertility, according to the mucus section, will be called peak day, and then that is useful for the double check. The next section is for the cervix. Some people don't like to do this. When you mention it to them, they go, oh, and they can't be persuaded to do it. But other people are quite happy to touch their cervix and enter on the chart whether the cervix is firm or soft and the position in the vagina. Below that we have the extra lesser signs of fertility, pain in the tummy, rectal pressure and breast changes, and again on the final line there is the day of the cycle. So the day of the cycle is repeated 3 or 4 times, which is very useful. Now this is the lower third of the NFPTA teacher training chart of fertility. Why is it important to keep a chart of the menstrual cycle? Well, the aim of charting a daily record of the fertility indicators, that is the basal body temperature, the cervical mucus and the cervix, is to identify the fertile phase and the infertile phases of the menstrual cycle. The woman records every day her observations of the fertility indicators, and thus she becomes very familiar with them. The rules of the symptothermal double-check method of natural family planning are then applied to the recorded observations in order to define the limits of the fertile phase and the infertile phases of the cycle, so that the couple can choose whether to try to achieve pregnancy or to avoid pregnancy. And they will do this charting together and keep in touch with each other, and this strengthens the bond between them. On this chart you can see again the peak day of mucus. All these dates are cycle numbers, they're not dates at this stage. The date is at the top of the chart. These are days of the cycle, and they are repeated several times so that you can keep your eye in. And if you draw a piece of paper across the page day by day, you can see when the woman shows you her chart what she has seen day by day, and you can explain it to her. The cervix area, firm or soft, put an F or an S in this area. Some women shudder at the thought of touching their cervix, but others are quite happy to do it, and you will teach them how to do it, and we'll teach you how to teach them later in the charting section. So F or S, high or low, closed or open. Then there are the minor indicators of fertility, which she may bring to your attention in your very first meeting. She may be familiar with these: pain in the tummy or bloated tummy, rectal pressure and breast changes, and then another row of days of the cycle. Then, importantly, are the fertile days, which you will learn to fill in, and you will be teaching her. Then, if they wish to record whether they had intercourse or not, that is really up to them. But there is a line there for them to do so. Then there are the boxes at the bottom. And these are the summary of what she has recorded, and it is useful to be able to teach them to fill them in at the end of every cycle, of every chart. So that at the first onset of the mucus symptom, onset of highly fertile mucus, peak day and peak +3. The temperature, first temperature above the cover line, which you're going to learn soon. Third raised temperature, if there is a shift, the thermal shift is adequate or not. If not, they must wait for a fourth raised reading, and again we'll explain that. And then if they've managed to bring themselves to check the cervix, there's the first change of the cervix and the first day of reverting to infertile. The length of the cycle, this is an important thing which will be used on the next chart because they are accumulating their data about lengths of chart.